the chairman of the LSD division, to introduce the chairperson for this second session. Let's put our hands together for the chairman.
Thank you very much, moderator. I'm here to simply introduce the chairperson for this first session in the afternoon. He's a man of few words. He doesn't like too much talking. And he was once my lecturer. And once a lecturer, always a lecturer. He is currently the senior vice president of the Ghana Institute of Surveyors. And I want to assure you that in the next February, he is going to be our president. A round of applause for Dr. Anthony Akwaji. Oh, do it better. Please do it better. In February, he will be seated there and we'll all serve him as the president. Thank you very much. Thank you, my former friend. Yeah. He used to be my immediate past friend, and he's now a former friend. Colleagues, good afternoon. It is an honor to be here to chair this occasion. Because we are late, quite behind time, I would say that I have accepted to chair the function, and I ask that you give me your support so that I can steer the affairs till the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair. So the virtual decks, please grant Prof access to share the slides. Professor Chifeng Guan is an Associate Dean of the School of Geography and Information Engineering at the China University of Geosciences. His research interests include spatiotemporal big data, spatial computational intelligence, and high performance spatial computing. He's one that has received several grants internationally from National Natural Science Foundation, the National Key Program, and also the Natural Science Foundation of Hubei. He has over 120 research papers on scientific journals and recently received the Innovative Person Award in GIS in China and the Natural Science Fund for Distinguished Young Scholars of the Hubei province of China. And so to give us our first technical presentation is Professor Guan. So shall we make ear virtually as we receive the presentation? Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Should I screen? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, the host for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me to this big events in Ghana. And it's my greatest pleasure and honor to attend this event, this seminar, and to present some of the recent work in our laboratory. And my name is Chifeng Guan, and I'm like the introduction. I'm from the School of Geography and Information Engineering at the China University of Geosciences in China. So my topic for today is simulating and predicting land use and land cover change using AI and HPC technologies. I got about 60 pages to go through, so I'm gonna be as quick as possible and to take as less time as possible to keep this seminar going smoothly. So what I'm going to be talking about today is basically two models that were developed in my laboratory. They're both for the simulation of land use and land cover change. So even though the title says using artificial intelligence and HPC and high performance computing technologies, but we all know that's not the key points in this talk. What I'm trying to focus on in this talk is how do we simulate, or why do we simulate land use, land cover change, and how do we simulate, and what can we do with the simulation and prediction? What are the applications of those simulations and predictions for a sustainable future, for basically the theme of this seminar, smart thinking for our future. Okay, so my talk includes these 5 parts. I'm gonna start with the question, why do we need to simulate land use, land cover change, and how do we simulate the change? Okay, well, basically, we know that we're surveyors, land surveyors, that way one of our job descriptions, or one of our tasks as a surveyor, is to map as accurately as possible the land. So one of the key information that has to be recorded in our land survey is the use of land, the cover of land, and the use of land. And we all know that the land is a limited resources, and is the basis for literally all the activities, all the human activities. So how do we use the land is quite one of the key questions that we need to answer. How do we use it effectively and efficiently? And also, one of our job is not only to survey the land, to record the use of land, but also to keep it up with the change of land use, because the use of land is basically a changing process. Okay, so the land could be changed from the natural land cover type, to a human used land use type. For example, from the land could be originally a forest or grassland and transformed into a cropland or urban land. And so we need to keep it up with the change of the land cover and land use. Also, we need to understand the process of the change of land cover, land use. We need to understand the mechanism of the land use and land cover change. And we need to be able to predict, not only simulate the historic change of land use and land cover, but also being able to predict what's going to happen in the future in order to devise some measures or policies for our future in order to get a sustainable development of our land and for our society, and so on and so forth. So the simulation is basically has been widely used in many fields, and in terms of the land use, land cover change, the question is, why do we need simulate the land use and land cover change? Why do we need to simulate the use of land? how they changes over time. Well, there are some problems that we need to or issues that we need to focus on when we talk about the simulation of land use and land cover change. Some purposes of why do we need to simulate the land use land cover change? For example, in ecology and climate change, the simulation model is a powerful tool to review the change process, the spatial patterns, the drivers, and the trends of land use change. And it has been widely applied in various fields such as biodiversity and ecosystem assessments, and can be used as an input to various climate process models, such as the INVEST model and the WRF models. In the field of regional planning or urban planning, the simulation models can be used to study the driving factors of regional development and provide effective decision support for governments at all levels. It could be used to simulate the urban development and the losses of cropland under the influence of different planning policies, to test whether the regional development meets planners' expectations, and it's to assist decision makers in making relatively reasonable decision adjustments before the policy implementation. Okay, in the field of landscape and pollution, the simulation models can combine a variety of environmental policy and other elements to provide a scientific and a quantitative basis for regional landscape design, landscape connectivity changes, illegal land use monitoring, food security, extreme environmental prediction, soil loss, surface runoff pollution, and so on and so forth. So in many cases, in many fields, we actually need the simulation of land use and land cover change. I'm going to go through some of the examples later on in details. But the next question is, how do we simulate? How do we simulate the land use land cover change in an effective way, in an efficient way? So in the field of geographic information science, scholars have developed a variety of models for the simulation of land use land cover change. Among them, the cellular automata model is one of the most commonly used modeling methodology for this type of simulation. The cellular automata is a type of models with discrete time, space, and state, and it has been widely used in this simulation, the modeling and the simulation of complex dynamic systems with some spatial temporal characteristics. I'm just going to give you a very simple example of a CA model, a cellular automata model. Well, look at this picture right now. The CA model basically divides the space or a region into grids, into regularly shaped and sized grids, and each grid is called a cell, and each cell is associated with a state, and this state can be can represent anything that you would like to represent. For example, in the case of land use land cover change, the state can be a land use and land cover type for this land unit, which is a cell in this case. So the state of each cell changes over time, but the change of the state of a certain cell depends on not only the cell itself, the state of this cell itself, but also the states of its neighboring cells in this case. So we're looking at the red cell, and it has a certain state, which is one of the land use land cover change, land use land cover type. And also we're looking at its neighbors in this space. And So all the status of the cell itself and the neighboring cells determine the state of the next time step in this model. Okay, this is a typical simple example of a CA model. But when we use this CA model in the simulation of land use land cover change, it's much more complicated. It's much more complicated. We're not considering, we're not only considering the states of those cells, in this case, not only considering the land use type of these cells, of these land pieces, but also some of the driving factors that may have impacts on the land use land cover. Okay, on the change of land use land cover of the land use land cover types. For example, some of the attributes of the land may have an impact on the suitability of the land use for this particular piece of land. The elevation, the slope, the distance from this cell to the transportation, the distance from this cell to the water body, and so on and so forth. You can think of a lot of things that may have impacts on the land use land cover suitability. So in the end, we need to define the transition rules. We need to define, or we need to somehow construct the transition rules for a CA model in order to produce a realistic simulation of the land use land cover change process. Okay, and CA model is not a new thing. It has been used in the study of land use land cover change for a couple of tens of years. Okay, and there are some classic CA models that have been developed in the past couple of decades for the purpose of simulation of land use land cover change. For example, the sleuth model, which was developed by Professor Keith Clark, who was my PhD advisor in the University of California, Santa Barbara, in the United States. And a GeoMod 2 LTM model, that is the land transformation model, and Dyna-Clue model, and so on and so forth. Okay, these are some examples of these simulation results generated by these CA models. Okay, so let's come back to the application of simulation. What can we do with the simulation of land use land cover change? There are many things that we can do in many fields. Just give you some examples. The first example is the impacts of land use on the ecology services and climate change. So scholars have combined the land use change models based on CA models and the INVEST model to simulate the influence of different land use land cover change on the change of ecosystem service function under different scenarios. And this kind of combination of the CA model and the INVEST model have been applied in many places in the world by many scholars. And in the field of urban planning, some scholars use CA models to obtain the parameters for reasonable urban morphology, basically the ups and downs of the buildings in a urban area. And some scholars used a CA model to simulate the urban development under different policy constraints and provide a policy to control the urban growth pattern of the city. Okay. In the field of landscape dynamic and risk warning, some scholars use the CA models to simulate the development of urban agglomerations and the impacts of global expansion of the urban of the urban on the crop production or grain production in the future. And some scholars to use the same models to simulate the future urban development and to analyze the possible future causal flood exposure risk caused by future land use change. There are so many other applications of land use land cover change simulations in this type of field. In the water pollution and the consumption field, some scholars use the land use land cover change models to project the impacts of the decline on urban runoff contamination levels. And some scholars use the model to simulate the impacts of land use land cover pattern on groundwater quality in some areas. And some scholars use the land use change models to predict the water consumption in a region. In the field of agriculture, some scholars use land use land cover change models to simulate future urban land expansion and to analyze the impacts of the urban land expansion on the cropland. For the purpose of ecological land loss predictions, some scholars use the same models to simulate the direct loss of natural habitats and to send early warnings to those possible loss of natural habitats for the biodiversity protection. Okay, and in terms of urban governance and early warning, some scholars use the land use land cover change models to determine the urban growth boundaries. And also, we can use this kind of urban growth boundaries to predict the possible illegal development for some protected areas. And we can also use the simulation to identify the protection areas where are the most possible vulnerable areas that can be occupied by some unwanted land use land coverage types. So the basic idea is we can use land use land cover change models to do the simulation to predict what's going to happen in the future, and to combine with other models and other spatial analysis tools in order to come up with some smart policies, strategies, measures, plans for a sustainable future. However, there are some issues that remain unsolved, even though there are some development in the past few decades in terms of the same models. So one of the most important, one of the key problem with the same model is that the most of the same models that have been proposed in the past are not published as a software tool or source code for other scholars, for other users to use. There are some open and free tools or software packages, but these free software packages are very scarce, and they all have some shortcomings. For example, clue that I just mentioned in a few slides back can be used to for a fine resolution simulation or large region simulation because of the limitation on the model capability. And it can't spatial temporally display the simulation process. And another famous CA model is the CA Markov model. It's not free, and the algorithm basically, or the model is basically 20 years old, and so it's kind of outdated. It has so many limitations on the capability of modeling the land use land cover change. Sleuth model is just mentioned is another world famous CA model, and sleuth model focuses on the simulation of urban development or the urban expansion, and it doesn't have a user-friendly graphic interface, and it also cannot spatial temporally display the simulation process as the model proceeds. Okay, so the question here is, do we have a free, a practical, and easy to use software package that can be used as a tool to carry out all the researches I mentioned above? Okay, to carry out the land use land cover change and also the following tasks beyond the simulation prediction. Okay, the answer is, of course, there are. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to introduce two of the models that we developed in our laboratory. The first model I'm going to introduce is called PLUS. It stands for Patch Generating Land Use Simulation Model. Okay, and this model has been, the article of this model has been published in the Journal of Computers, Environment, and Urban Systems. And if you're interested in, go on the website of this journal and then can download the PDF of this paper. But if you really need it, I can send a copy of this article to you. Okay, so there are many exciting features of the PLUS model that we developed. It can be used to fine resolution. It can be used in large regions. It can input and output image files with coordinates and projections. It can simulate urban development and change of multiple land use types. This is very important. It can not only simulate the growth of urban land use types, but also other multiple land use types, land use and land cover types. And it can spatial temporally display the simulation process as the model proceeds. And very importantly, it can reveal the underlying drivers of the land use change and simulate the patches change of land uses. And this is very important because now we can not only simulate the land use land cover change process, but also it will help us to understand what's going on behind the scene. What are the mechanisms that drives the change of land use land cover? And policy factors can be easily added into the simulation process. We can use this function to test our policies, our plannings, our strategies. Okay, and because we use the newest simulation algorithm, we use artificial intelligence algorithm to automatically extract the land use land cover change mechanism. The model can achieve much higher simulation accuracy than any other software packages now existed existing in the world. And also, this software packages is completely free, and you can download and from our website and can use it for free. And we provide a complete user's manual and test data for you to learn this the model. And it has multiple modules, including the pre-processing data, the simulation, the prediction, the evaluation, and analysis modules. And it has a user-friendly and beautiful graphical interface, and it runs high speed, okay? And it's completely free, okay? So many good things about this model. And I'm gonna step back a little bit and introduce the basic idea of this model. So coming back to the shortcomings of those existing older CA models, there are some problem with those older CA models. First is that they are weak on revealing the underlying drivers of land use change. Basically, they are weak at revealing the mechanism of land use land cover change. Okay. The second problem is that they are unable to spatial temporally capture the evolution of patches of land uses, multiple land uses, especially for the patch evolution of natural land use types. Okay, so to solve these problems, we developed this new model called PLUS model, and it has three most important components. The first one is in this model we brought a new analysis strategy, which is used to explore the causes of land use changes of multiple land use types. Okay, we call it leads. We call it leads. And the second is that this model includes a new multi-class growth mechanism which can better simulate multi-class land use patch level changes. We call it CARS. And thirdly, the model is coupled with a multi-objective programming mechanism, so the simulation results can be better support the planning policy to achieve sustainable development. Okay, so it has a component to extract the mechanism of land use changes of different types, of multiple types. The second, it can simulate multi-class land use changes at the patch level. The third, it can be coupled with a optimization mechanism to generate the optimization of land use, land cover, spatial distributions, which can be used to devise land use plannings. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all the details of all these three components, but just a few things I just need to point out. For the land expansion analysis strategy, we call it LEAS, we use a artificial intelligence technique called a random forest classification algorithm to explore the relationship between the growth in each land use type and the multiple driving factors. We can put as many as possible driving factors for the simulation. The driving factors could be, like I said, the elevation of the land, the slope of this, the aspect of the slope, and the distance from the piece of land to the transportation, the distance from the water bodies, distance from some facilities and so on and so forth. Anything that can contribute to the change of land use can be used as a driving factors in this model. Okay, and for the second part, our model, the plus model, is associated with multi-type random seeds in the space, and we have this threshold descent rules combined with the transition rules of the CA model in order to allow the new land use patches to spontaneously grow and freely develop under the constraints of the growth probabilities. Okay, so this is quite complex, and if you're interested in this process, you may go refer to the article that I just mentioned a few slides back. Okay, like I mentioned, the software package for this model is completely free, and you can download the software from this URL, and it comes with not only the the software packages and also a user's manual and a test data. So once you have this, download this model, you can just run it like a snap. Okay. And well, it runs on a few open source libraries, but this is not your concern. Okay, once you download the model, it runs just like any other software packages. And this is the interface, the graphic interface of this model. And I'm not going to go through all the details of this interface of this model. But this is how model runs. So as the model proceeds, it basically simulates the changes of land use in the study area. So this is actually the animation of the simulation, which I think the region is Wuhan city, the city of Wuhan in China. And you can see the red areas actually is the urban area, and the urban area is growing expansions throughout the time. So with this model, then we can simulate the land use land cover change with a high accuracy. And our study shows that our the plus model it achieves higher accuracies.
Please wind up.
Do I need to wait? I'm sorry.
Please wind up.
You're echoing, so I can't hear you clearly. Should I continue? Hello? Is there a problem? Can you hear me? Hello?
I can't.
Okay, I'll be quick. Okay. So with this model, we can achieve higher accuracy, and also we can analyze the contributions of all the driving factors to each type of land use. And this is very important. And with this model, we can also to generate predictions for multiple scenarios. And so there are many applications of these models. So the model have been used in many countries by many scholars. There are over 100 scientific articles published using our plus model. And the second model I'm going to introduce is called mixed cell cellular automata. It's also, the article about this model is also published in the Journal of Landscape and Urban Planning. And the main focus of this model is that for each piece of land, it's not only a uniform land use type, but also a mixture of multiple land use types. So we can simulate the mixed land use structures of each piece of land. And this is quite important. And so we also use our artificial intelligence technique, is random forest, to do this. So I'm not going to get into the details of the whole technical thing. This is the simulation of the Wuhan metropolitan area, and that we can achieve even higher simulation accuracy than the previous the plus model that I just mentioned. And the most important thing is that this model, the MCCA model, can simulate some subtle changes, some little changes in the area. So this is even more accurate and precise than the plus model. And this model is also a free software package that you can download from this URL. And it has been used by many scholars in China and over the world, many other countries. And the last part of it is so these models are quite complicated, that, like you can see. So when we use a large amount of data with higher resolution, higher spatial resolution, higher temporal resolution, and it adds a lot of intensity in the data. And also because we use some complex algorithm in the model, the computational intensity is also very high. So when these two intensities add together, it makes the model very, very time consuming, and it leads to a lot of problems. We cannot actually simulate the land use land cover change with a very high resolution in a very large area. So what we can do, we use the high performance computing technology, basically the parallel computing technology, to speed up the process. So what we did was to develop this parallel raster computational framework, that we can use this framework to develop any type of raster computing process algorithms. What we call this framework is parallel raster processing library. And so it supports all kinds of raster computing algorithms or processes. And beyond that, these are basically on CPUs, on multiple CPUs. And recently, we just developed a new library, a new framework. It's called MC-RPL. It uses multiple GPUs. A GPU is much more powerful in terms of computing power. And we use the MC-RPL to parallelize these two models, MC Plus and MCCA model. And so for the MC Plus model, it runs much faster. In this case, for the plus model, it takes 4,000 seconds to run a simulation. But with 12 CPUs, we can finish this whole simulation in just 35 seconds, and produce exactly the same simulation results. And we also parallelize the MCCA model with the MC-RPL. And so in this experiment, so the original MCCA model takes 800 seconds to run the whole simulation, but with only 2 GPUs, the simulation can be finished within 50 seconds. So it's much faster and generates exactly the same results. So in conclusion, land use and cover change simulation is a key approach for sustainable land management and planning. And the PLUS model we developed provides the capabilities of effective and intelligent extraction of multi-class land use land cover change mechanism and accurate simulation prediction of land use land cover change. And the MCCA model provides the capabilities of simulating the dynamics of mixed land use structure, which is the theoretical and the technical advance for land use land cover simulation. And high performance computing provides efficient large-scale computing support for land use land cover change models. Okay, so this is the end of my talk. Thank you, and I'm sorry I take too much time for the talk. Thank you.
Innovative. The simulation is still simulating the minds of people here, meaning that once we get the slides and some of the papers, we'll make use of it. And so Prof will make the slides available. I saw that those into remote sensing and GIS, they were getting excited. And those that have to go and do four corner, their minds were being simulated and processed using the AI. And then you could see it blinking. But that's very interesting presentation, giving us all the options, because we are in the world of AI and robotics, where these things, you can't just say, I just went and did ground truth data, did maximum likelihood. How are you able to distinguish between the pixels and the different, you just pick it like that. But I know it's been exciting, and it's been a smart way of invoking our thought processes so that we'll deeper as we engage in different land use. So thank you very much, Prof. Do we have some questions? With the permission of Chairman, we can just take one or two because our time is. So the slides will be shared. We've notified the second speaker because of our time. And then the third, we'll just be doing about some 20 to 25 minutes presentation. After the second presentation, we shall have a time with our sponsors briefly, and then our last presenter, who is in-house, will take over for us to do the very last presentation for the day. So thank you, Professor Guan. Our next speaker is Dr. Craig Hancock. He earned his BSc Honors degree, Surveying and Mapping Science from Newcastle University, UK in 2003. He completed his PhD in Space Geodesy, focusing on satellite orbits, Earth rotation, and gravity, also at Newcastle University, UK in 2012. Currently, Dr. Hancock holds the position of Reader Associate Professor in Geospatial Engineering within the School of Architecture, Building and Civil Engineering, Loughborough University in the UK. He serves as the leader of the surveying group and holds the direct charge of the civil engineering program. He also has more than 100 scientific journal publications to his credit, and he has wealth of experience. He's also a member of the Federation, International Federation of Surveyors Working Group 6.4, member of ISPR Commission 5, and one time the vice chair of FIG Commission 6, and editor for the 3 special issues of the journals of remote sensing. So I want to give Prof a chance as he speaks. This topic is digital twinning of solar farms using drone surveys. This is another smart innovation. in the use of drone surveys. So technical team, please, if you can grant access for Prof to give us his presentation. And he'll be doing this in 20 to 25 minutes. Thank you.
We not take campus inside.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
No. Then can you hear him? No. Yeah. Hello, I can hear you. You can't hear him.
Can't hear me.
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me? I can't share my screen if you can hear me. I don't have the ability to share my screen. Hello? Hello?
Just go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. You can share the screen. Yes.
Hello?
Hi.
Can you hear me now? Excellent. Okay, I think we are a little bit behind time, so I will do my best to go through my presentation quickly. My name is Craig Hancock. I'm a reader in geospatial engineering at Loughborough University in the UK. I formerly worked at Nottingham University and I studied at Newcastle University. My email is on my slides, so if anybody wishes to communicate with me after the event, you are welcome to do so. I used to live in Ghana. This is my favorite Ghanaian food, red fried plantain and beans with gari. So I used to live in Accra and Kumasi some long time ago, but Ghana is my second home, so I'm very happy to be invited today and hope maybe next year to visit you all in person. Forgive me, I just want to advertise my university very briefly. I'm aware that my university perhaps in the world is not very well known, or not as well known as some British universities, but we are the best university in the UK for sports, A lot of the Olympic athletes train here. We are almost always ranked in the top 10 of UK universities. We have won awards for the best university in the UK. We're 4th in the UK for student satisfaction. We are number 1 in the whole world for sports subjects. So if you are interested in navigation for sports or surveying for sports, we are a very good place to come. We are number 1 in the UK for employer-student connections. And we are ranked 5-star for our teaching, research and employability. And 90% of our research is world leading or internationally excellent. And we are number 1 in the UK for university facilities. And we are number 1 in the UK for course quality. My school, I'm in the School of Architecture, Building and Civil Engineering. And we have about 80 academic staff and about 800 undergraduate students and 100 postgrad students and something like 200 researchers and postdocs. And we have an annual research spend of about £5 million UK. And our vision's to be the number 1 integrated research and education centre for buildings and infrastructure. So if you are interested in that and interested in collaborating with us, we are open to conversations about that. Right. First of all, I'd like to start by talking generally about some things that I've done to do with digital twinning. So the first thing is some things that we're doing at Loughborough University. This is a student intern project, and this is being funded by Loughborough University's Net Zero group, who are pushing the university towards net zero by 2030. And one of the areas that we need to improve is our energy usage. And so we are trying to build a digital twin of the campus. This is our main teaching building, the West Park Teaching Hub. It's a series of lecture theatres and a communal area for the students. So our student intern, under my supervision and the supervision of Dr. Long Chen, who's my colleague, has taken the CAD drawings for this building, the architectural CAD drawings, the mechanical CAD drawings, and the electrical CAD drawings. And he has used those drawings to create a BIM model, which contains the structural elements, the electrical elements, and the mechanical elements of the building. We then noticed, by doing a manual comparison between the existing paper and CAD plans of the building and the actual build of the building, that there was a variety of problems with the data that the university holds for the building. So the first problem on the left-hand side there, you can see a laser scanner set up. This is in the basement of the building. In the basement of the building, none of the air conditioning and heating systems and water pipes that are actually in the basement are contained in any of the information still held by the university. So we had to add that into the drawings ourselves, and we did that through a series of manual measurements with total stations and tapes, but mainly using this Faro S-series laser scanner. We then also found in the middle picture there that a lot of the walls inside the West Park Teaching Hub were flat on the CAD drawings, but in reality were curved. So you can see the curved wall there. And so we had to edit the drawings so that they showed the curves of the walls rather than the flat walls that were in the original drawings. In addition to that, some of the classrooms have been altered since it was built, and so we updated the drawings to reflect that alteration. You can ignore the picture on the right. So why are we doing this at Loughborough, and why are people doing this kind of activity in general? It's a booming industry in the UK, and I used to live in China as well, and it's a booming industry in China. A lot of my students who I taught in China are now working in this scan to BIM, scan to digital twin type industry. So the motivation is that years ago, everybody lived in towns and villages, and now the cities are getting bigger and the urban population is getting bigger. This gives us some problems. Aged infrastructure. This is particularly a problem in Europe, but it's a problem everywhere. We've got old bridges, we've got old buildings, and we need to understand how to maintain those buildings for safety and heritage reasons, but also for reducing our carbon footprint type reasons, which is the motivation that Loughborough has for doing this kind of work. So environment, so pollution, reducing our effect on the world also is a motivation. Most countries also now have an aging society. So a lot of countries in the world are, the people are getting older, and so we might need to adapt our urban environments to deal with the age demographics across the different countries in the world. And resource shortages, so urban planning type activities. How do we get the things that we need into the cities when the cities are getting bigger and bigger and more people are living in the cities? So this brings us to the motivation for BIM GIS, which I suppose is kind of a digital twin. It's not really fully a digital twin, but it's part of digital twinning. And BIM models give us the ability to store detailed information about individual specific buildings, or maybe buildings in a small region, and to store metadata about that particular building, maybe energy usage, maybe pollution, maybe the number of people that are in the building, maybe the materials that the building is made out of, when people are there, how many cars are there, those types of information. The GIS, as you already know, gives us the ability to present data on a wider scale, on a city level, on a country level, even on a continent or a world level, and to analyze and query that data. So combining these two types of systems gives us some big advantages, that we can hold very specific detailed information about specific buildings in BIM models, and then we can utilize that data to look at spatial patterns within GIS. So we have this workflow here, which basically tries to show that our surveying and mapping skills go into our topographic maps and our engineering drawings, and those help us to produce our GIS, our CAD drawings, our maps, and our BIM models. And then we can work towards, because there is no industry standard for BIM GIS integration at the moment, a BIM GIS integration platform that allows us to utilize the full potential of all of the information that is stored in these different computer programs, let's say. So the one step in this is the scan to BIM, or the photo to BIM process. And this is just an example of some student work at Nottingham University, where we've scanned the Nottingham Geospatial Institute. So on the left-hand side, we've got the point cloud data. And then we've mostly manually, some semi-automation, created a BIM model around the point cloud. And then we've deleted the point cloud and been left with a as-built BIM model that's been built from surveying measurements inside the building. This allows us to have a very accurate spatial geometrically correct model that you can then use for energy analysis and airflow analysis and those kind of things. Because as we already saw from my example at the beginning, sometimes, or let's say most of the time, the plans that you are given or the plans that are held somewhere become out of date or have some missing information in them. So integration of BIM and GIS allows us to obtain and store attribute data and obtain space and geometry information and design resilient construction and estimate risk level. So I was involved in a project in Ningbo where we tried to create a BIM GIS system where the BIM was the specific building and the indoor space, and the GIS provided the urban environment. This was linked to lots of sensors that were all around the building, including RFID to tag chairs and tables and computers, cameras for safety and security, electronic devices that measured energy and airflow and temperature along with these sensors. This information was then combined in a virtual environment and metadata held in a database. And this allowed people to visualize the data, look at the objects, look at the space on some kind of visualization platform. So this is our test building. This is at the University of Nottingham in China. This is our BIM model of this building. And this is a screenshot of our BIM GIS system that uses Google Earth for the base map. And you can see here that we've got BIM models of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the buildings on the campus that were created from a mixture of scanning, photogrammetry, and existing CAD drawings. You can see that there is buttons to interact with the system here, very simple buttons, sensor options, camera options, coordinate system options, etc. And then we can have the ability to zoom inside the building and then to look at very specific information about what is inside the building. So you might not be able to read this properly, but this is about information about the wall, the finish on the wall, what the wall's made out of, those kind of things. And then we can also hold information about the desks and chairs and tables and computers that are held inside that building. So that brings me on to the utility scale solar digital twin, which is a current project at Loughborough University that's been led by myself and Dr. Long Chen and Professor Ching-King Meng and our student Jack Starkey. So a realistic digital representation of an asset, process or system is the definition of a digital twin. And why do we need one? Well, we want to improve efficiency. We want to improve yield, safety, performance, and capability. And this is for all types of infrastructure, but in this project, we are specifically looking at the operation and maintenance of solar farms across the world. I just need to thank a company called Above Surveying who've provided the imagery for this talk. Solar farms, the industry is booming in the UK and across the world. But solar farm and solar panels can have many, many different defects, from electrical components, physical damage, and dust, sand and shading, and this affects the performance. But a lot of the current methods of capturing data and looking at health of solar farms are at least partly manual, not fully automated. So there's a lot of manual work that goes into telling if there's a problem with a solar farm. So it's important to know what and where needs maintenance. So we want to try and be able to identify problems and say where those problems are to make solar farms more cost effective. So a digital twin will allow us to capture the status of each individual solar module on a regular basis. And this will help us to optimize maintenance and make better decisions and even predict failure in the future. It will also help us to evaluate historical data over long periods of time. And this is part of enhancing the UK's national digital twin. So basically, there are two ways to monitor. We can split them into two: electrical monitoring and visual-based monitoring. Electrical monitoring is direct measurement of performance. This has got a high twinning rate, a high labour cost with low precision. And then there's a visual-based method, which is what we are pursuing, which gives us high precision and estimates performance based on visual features. And you can see an example here of an infrared drone image that is showing a defect on a panel, a possible defect on a panel. And you can see here also that you can just about see the defect in the standard image, but it's much clearer on the infrared image. Visual inspections usually happen with UAV flights. This gives us 100% coverage, but there's a lot of manual effort. So the flight's manual and a lot of the data processing is manual. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to automate this process. So we want to do 3 types of automation. We want to detect modules, individual modules. We want to detect faults and classify the faults. And we want to localize the modules. So we want to give an absolute coordinate to each individual solar panel. This is challenging because solar panels and solar farms are highly repetitive in terms of their visual look and reflective. And we have a restricted image quality based on the rules about flying UAVs and what equipment UAVs can carry. For thermographic inspections, the infrared inspections have poor texture, they're much lower resolution than standard images, and they require recalibration over time. So there's several problems to solve. So we can obtain these surveys, these images, and this is the plan for the project. So anything in white here is something that already exists and we don't intend to change. Anything in yellow exists and we are just going to modify it slightly. And anything that is blue, we're saying is a novel addition to the current processes. So we are taking existing open source code, editing image selection process, editing the bundle adjustment process, and then we are adding image enhancement, module detection, automatic module detection. We are adding module localization, fault detection, fault classification, and then we are updating our digital twin, which means that every time you fly a survey, your twin information updates. Oh, yeah, sorry. So the digital twin can integrate into the UK's national digital twin. It can communicate with other digital twins through APIs, and it can provide autonomous and smart control in response to different changing conditions. So the benefit of our project is that it will provide reduction in manual effort through a photogrammetric approach, which removes distortion, improves current practice, and gives greater information, including module location, the angle of the modules, any vegetation changes, and tracker angles over time. There are some frame problems in the context of updating the twin, and this focuses on comprehensive data capture and combines context-specific semantic understanding of photogrammetry. So currently we're looking at dozens of sites, mostly in the UK, but not only, and testing the performance with the infrared-only imagery, and we are trying to detect modules. So we're using MaskR's neural networks for this and key point neural networks, and we are evaluating the performance of these. And very quickly, I just want to show you this video of our current system. So when there's a cross in the video, that means the module has been identified successfully in that individual image. So you can see that our current code works very well. All of the modules seem to be individually identified. But if I just go quickly to the end, you'll see at the end here, we have problems at the end of the rows, and we need to solve this problem. This is one of the problems that we now need to solve. So what needs to be done? Well, we need to implement and test the full digital twin, and we need to make it interoperable with current PV digital twins. We want to extend this to smaller scale or less typical PV plants. So at the moment, we're using similar size PV plants, similar situation PV plants. So the current methods for monitoring solar farms are not sufficient, they're not efficient, they're overly manual and cost too much. Our proposal is trying to reduce the manual effort, create a more automated system that includes localization and fault detection. Yes, and that's my student's email, Jack Starkey, if you are interested in talking directly to him. And here are some references about the work. I hope that's interesting. If anybody's interested in talking further, you're welcome to contact me on my email address. Thank you very much, and hope to meet you all in person.
this year so he asked, well, anyhow, okay. He asked me to welcome you to Tamale and also to deliver his message. And it goes, I deem it a great honor to be invited to address you on this special event. I bring you warm and fraternity greetings from the Survey and Mapping Division of the Lands Commission. As a division, we have the mandate to regulate activities within the surveying and mapping fraternity for the development of our nation, Ghana. This we do through the relevant acts, legislative instruments, and engagements such as this. We use gatherings of this nature to inform and educate practitioners as well as the general public on the current state of affairs within the Survey and Mapping Division, and also the steps we intend to undertake to improve service delivery. As the theme for this year's seminar states, smart thinking, geospatial solution for Ghana's digitalized economy. I would like to mention a few things that the SMD is working on that shall contribute to both smart thinking and geospatial solution to aid the Lands Commission to efficiently maintain up-to-date land records, provide reliable land information, and equitable and effectively deliver land services to the general public. This includes, one, the completion of work on the review of the technical guidelines and instructions. The Office of the Director of Survey and Mapping Division of the Lands Commission put together a committee to review the existing technical guidelines and instructions. In fact, 85% of the technical instructions and guidelines have successfully been reviewed. The committee had some financial challenges, so we are working earnestly to get the committee to finalize their work for onward submission to management. Two, computation and publication of the transformation parameters. Observations were carried out on 52 legacy trigonometric points nationwide. Computation and testing of transformation parameters has been completed by the committee. The committee is yet to submit its final report to management, assessment, and publication. ladies and gentlemen, completion and implementation of the policy on the registration and calibration of survey instrument. The instrumentation section of the division is mandated by law to register and calibrate all instruments in use in the practice of the profession. The division is putting together a document that seeks to create a database of all surveying instruments belonging to the commission, individuals, firms, and institutions for cadastral and other service. It seeks to calibrate and satisfy all surveying instruments. The document will serve as an input into the development of the necessary legislative instrument in respect of the Land Act 2020 Act 1036. This, when enforced, shall contribute to the protection of theft of instruments. Also, assessing the status of instrument used in the practice of surveying and accuracy of data collected from survey works. It also seeks to increase revenue for government. Number 4, adoption of the national geospatial policy. The well and profession like ours depends on shared data and teamwork for successful attainment of set goals. There is therefore the need for collaboration by the division as a regulator and the private sector to push for the passage and adoption of the national special policy, and subsequently the establishment of the national spatial data infrastructure. Next, establishment and densification of course network. One of the core mandates of the division is to provide a stable geodetic reference framework for the nation. The establishment and densification of course is the order of the day. We are glad to say that Geotech Systems and its partners, in collaboration with the division, have established about 46 new courses across the country to augment the existing ones. The division is working assiduously to tie them into the national grid. This shall be operationalized in 2024 to the benefit of the profession. The doors of the commission are still open for greater collaboration in this regard. Also, the division is putting modalities about the licensure exam for practice of land surveying. The division is putting modalities in play for the organization of exams for licensing professionals in the practice of cadastral survey. This shall be published in the media before the close of the year. Also, the division is also calling for practitioners and the general public for collaboration in the following. 1. Collation of inputs in the development of the LI for the operationalization of the Act 2020, Act 1036, and the Lands Commission Act 2008, Act 767. Also, the promotion of the survey and mapping division of the Lands Commission as the regulator and the survey profession as a whole. Let me also say that the survey and mapping division would like to remind practitioners and licensed surveyors of the following: that the surveys of state or government acquisitions are a preserve of the division and shall be directed to the office of the Director of Survey and Mapping Division. To uphold the integrity of the profession at all times. And also to defend the profession at all times, especially the office of the regulator. On this note, on behalf of management staff of FSND and on my own behalf, I wish the Land Surveying Division of the Ghana Institution of Survey fruitful deliberation in this seminar. Thank you so much.
Thank you for delivering it well. So we just have some 2 more items on the program before our last presentation so that we can go and rest and prepare for the tour. But it looks like the Banku is doing some gymnastics in some people. So before we do the presentation to our sponsors, I want to stand. Please, let's stand. I want to use our waist to spell GHIS. So I don't even know what I'm saying, but I don't know what I'm saying, but maybe we'll try to use our waist and then we spell the GHIS. So how do we do the G? Which way? Some people, they are waist. I won't tell you what they can do. So let's go. Hey, but some people know how to do it too. So let's go with the G. Let's see. G. Hey, how are you crossing it? Oh. Okay, let's do the H. H. Is it small h or capital H? We should do which one? The small one. Okay, let's do the small h. Let's see. Okay, this way. Then we go and then which way? Anti-clockwise. Don't get misclose errors. Oh, okay, we are doing smart distance, so the coordination will be better. Okay, I. As for the I. Okay. Hey, Ajapon, the way you are doing this thing. So let's do the I. I want to see the females do the I, you know? Okay. Hey. Then that one, Latte, you are jumping with the I. Or how do you do that one? So the I. Okay, let's go. Let's go. And then, so how do we dot it? It's capital. You see, chairman want to run away, say it's capital. Okay, The S. Hey. But you see, I'm trying to make you work. I'm not working myself. Okay, please, let's take our seats so that at least the banku can digest small. So, want to invite the chairman of the planning committee and the team to come as they help us to present these. Some come with certificates and a plaque. We really want to appreciate these donors and sponsors for making this very important program a success. We really appreciate them. Want to invite past President Adotewia to please come and help us do the presentation for the platinum. And the first on the list, yes, please. The first on the list will be Lands Commission. Lands Commission. Can we get that? I think it's this one. Lands Commission. I think the Deputy Executive Secretary will take that for Lands Commission. Oh, photo driver. Okay, so we are mapping division. I think now Sedu can come back and take for survey and mapping division. Okay. So Davjo Surveying and Engineering Consult. If we don't mention it well, we spell it for you. Next. Joama Geomatics Consult. PDSA. PDSA. Ligi, are you taking for Joama? You yourself, are you not taking for Joama? PDSA. That's platinum, yes. Thank you very much, Past President. We will invite Past President Abose to also come and help us do the presentation. Past President Adotewia, Maybe we can give you yours so that you don't need to. We just, where's his? So that. Okay, then you please, when we find it, yes, thank you. So which one is this? CSS. CSS. Precise systems. Gold. Bison survey. TDC. Tema Development Company. So should I call that? Multi-geomatics. We appreciate your contribution as always. Multi-geomatics. Okay, what was the next? Okay. Now, the individual. Let's quickly do that. Thank you, Past President. Thank you very much. We shall I'm sure that this will help many of us support this year. It's been good, and we hope that it can be better and best. We now want to invite FIG Vice President to do the next FIG Vice President. So we are to FIG Vice President to, this is platinum category. This is the last. And this year, the individual sponsorship has also been very impressive, and we want to encourage more of that. So this one, leadership by example, Surveyor Isaac Labi. So Chairman, do more. So you can triple it the next time. This one. Oh, this one is myself. Oh. So how do I mention my name?
Surveyor Professor Prosper Larry.
I'm reselling mine to sponsor. Surveyor Joseph Sapon Ochre. Oh, let's put our hands for him. Where is he? You are the one or the two, or your boss. Yeah, but you can take the cameras for it. All right. All right. So thank you very much. And so at this time, we want to we've gone through the simulations, the digital twinning, and you realize that when the representative of the SMD head was mentioned transformation parameters, and I know a lot of us don't like too much of the mathematics, the Laplace, the La minus, and then all the other integrations that confuses the system. But the professor says that he's going to tell the story in a very simple way. Also knowing that we are going to have a snack break that will be carry home for us. It means that your mind should be very relaxed for this 20 to 25 minutes presentation. And so I want to introduce the third speaker. You know, an MC for a program was given the program sheet and he had a suit like this, not knowing he forgot where the program was. So as he stood there, said, today is a great day. And because today is a great day, today is a great day. He was looking for the program. Today is a great day. Today, he did, I couldn't find it. And then in Hausa, I said, Takrana de Yabechi. Do you know the meaning of that? Oh, as for the program, it's lost. Dr. Yao Yavenyo Zika obtained his BSc Geomatic Engineering degree, first class honors, in 2008 from the Western University College of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, KNUST, now University of Mines and Technology, UMAT, Sakwa, Ghana. He obtained his Masters of Engineering and Doctor of Philosophy degrees in Geodesy and Survey Engineering from the China University of Geosciences, Wuhan, in 2013 and 2017, respectively. In 2014, he was appointed as assistant lecturer, and since 2021, he's been a senior lecturer with the Geomatic Engineering Department, UMAT, Ghana. He is currently the author of 99 peer-reviewed journals, 12 conference articles, and 1 book chapter. I must say that in Ghana, he's one of the prolific writers. For you to be able to get 2 or 3 papers, it may take you Methuselah years. So this achievement is not one that over 1,300 Google citation. He recently received the Maiden Vice Chancellor's Award, and he is the co-principal investigator for the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation. Besides his specialty in geodesy, Dr. Ziga has done many research collaboration where artificial intelligence was applied, such as mining, petroleum, hydrology, geotechnical, mathematics, environmental science, and then computer science and renewable energy. So his research interests include the application of artificial intelligence in engineering and geoscience, 2D and 3D coordinate transformation, geodetic deformation modeling, geoid modeling, and height system. Let us invite Dr. Yao Yevenyo Zika to come and trace the journey of coordinate transformation from where we started from and how we're playing with it with AI. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today to give a presentation on tracing the coordinate transformation journey from Molodensky to the present AI world. I must say that I'm humbly honored, and if I look at the entire GHIS fraternity or the survey community, if you are given an opportunity to come and give a presentation, then it means that you are doing something good. And it tells me that I have to keep working hard, because it is not easy for a prophet to be recognized in his hometown. So if the committees if the committee has been able to give me such a recognition, I say thank you very much. Now, today, I don't want to present any mathematics. So I just want us to have a conversation. Let's just talk. We are tired of all the mathematics and all these things. So I will start by talking about the 3 pillars of geodesy. Then we'll move into the concept of transformation. Then we'll now look at the historical setting. So the historical setting, we are going to look at the global perspective and then the Ghanaian perspective. Then we'll look at a bit of the numerical transformation process. What are the challenges that we are encountering and why the need to apply AI for coordinate transformation? Then we have to also have a look about some of the methods that have been applied. And then in the future, I hope we have students among us. There are people who would want to do masters or PhD. The future directions are things that we can explore further to improve the accuracy that we already achieved. Now, when we look at this diagram, 3 pillars of geodesy here, we are talking about the geokinematics, we are talking about the Earth rotation, gravity field. Now, when you combine these 3, it intersects at one point, and that is the reference frames. Now, geokinematics, in the presentation by the PDSA, he was talking about deformation monitoring. So the geokinematics, under it, we want to understand the geodynamic properties of the Earth, which in layman's explanation, we can say that we want to link it up to deformation studies. But these deformation studies, we want to understand the crustal movements, not only for the structural health monitoring. Then we have the Earth rotational parameters. Now we are using GPS. The GPS that we are using is based on a certain reference datum, and that is the WGS84. Now, the WGS84, that we confidently say the GPS is giving me WGS84 coordinates, was actually established based on certain assumptions and rules. So one is that the center of the WGS84 coincides with the center of the Earth. And that is why when you read geodesy papers, they will tell you geocentric system. And that is why WGS can be used everywhere in the world, because the origin, the starting position of the coordinate system starts from the center of the Earth, which is the 000. Now, the axis was also fixed to meet with the Earth rotational pole. We all know from our general science knowledge that the Earth rotates. So it rotates around its axis. So if you are using a GPS, how do you know that the geocenter is always constant? It is always coinciding with the center of the Earth. So it tells you that somebody somewhere should be able to monitor the Earth rotational parameters to make sure that when we wake up in Ghana and we pick our GPS, we are getting very good coordinate results. Then when we go to the gravity field, you realize that in the gravity area, we want to look at the physical forces that are having impact on the measurement that we take. A typical example is the height values. Now, apart from determining the droid, we also use the gravity data to understand what is really happening within the subsurface structure. Now, when you look at these three key pillars of geodesy, they all intersect at what we call the reference frame. The reference frame is actually the coordinate that we pick from the field. We cannot do anything in geokinematics, Earth rotation, gravity field, without actually picking accurate coordinates. So it means that when we look at the pillars of geodesy, coordinates plays a key role. And in all fairness, whatever we do as geomatic engineers, as land surveyors, it is coordinate that we observe. So it means that there is a need for us to understand the type of coordinate we are using, the accuracy level that we are getting from it. So this now will bring us to the concept of coordinate transformation. As I said today, I don't want to show any mathematics. This is just an image. There's nothing more. Now, let's take the GPS. The GPS, the system of reference, as I said, is WGS84. So it means that it was not created for Ghana. It was created for global application. Now we want to use the GPS observation in Ghana. How do we do that? Now let's go back to the basic small. We say that every data we pick in geomatic must have a datum. If that is the case, then let's ask ourselves, in Ghana, what is our reference datum? So that's the War Office 1926 ellipsoid. Now, when you look at the War Office 1926 ellipsoid, it was developed, established specifically for Ghana. So it means that you cannot use such a reference system even beyond Ghana. Now you want to use a system that is designed to be applied worldwide. So it means that if I want to use such a system, I must make sure that the coordinate that I'm collecting will actually fit into my local system. So your ability to move your WGS84, which the GPS is giving you, for it to be applicable within the Ghana system, that process is what we call no mathematics. So that is the simple explanation for okay. Now I know we have our colleague friends from the mining company. In the mining company, you are using a mine grade coordinate system. Now, that is what you have been using to do all your survey your pit surveys, and everything within the mine. Now you have been tasked to prepare a cadastral from the mining site, but the coordinate system you are using is mine grade system. And Ghana, we say the Ghana National Grid. So how do you now transform your mine grid coordinate into the national system? The process of doing that is coordinate transformation. Now, let's look at the historical setting. Now that we understand what it means to transform coordinate, one of the oldest mathematical models that were proposed to perform transformation is the Helmet transformation model. The Helmet transformation model gives us seven transformation parameters. Now, when we go back to this diagram, you realize that we have X, Y, Z. So we have X, Y, Z axes. So in the Helmet transformation, when Helmet was developing the transformation model, what he was looking out for is that now I want to transform WGS84 to Ghana system. So when I look at WGS84 system, the parameters, ellipsoidal parameters, and I look that of the Ghana War Office ellipsoidal parameters, semi-major axis, semi-minor axis, those things, you realize that the values are different. Now, if I want to make sure that one system is exactly on the other, it means that I need to consider the distances between the axes, because I have one system here, another system here. There is a gap between the axes. If that is the case, then there is a need to determine certain group of parameters that can help us bring or bridge that distance. So if I want to get to Prof. Larry, and I know that from this point to Prof. Larry is 10 meters, the moment I calculate 10 meters, I can get to its location exactly. So the helmet will give you 3 translation parameters, which is actually handling the distances between the axes. And the moment you are able to close the distances, the origin will coincide. Now, when you are bringing these distances, bridging the distances between these axes, you will also notice that the reference axis could be turning like this. So the moment you establish the origin, then there is a gap between the original, the WGS84 and that of your War Office as an example. That small gap in the reference axis, you have to make sure that it will lie on the WGS or the War Office that you want. That gives you the rotational parameters. Then finally, those of us who did SSS, core mathematics, transformation, scale factor. If you are multiplying a value, let's say 2 by a vector, since the scale factor is positive, the value will increase. Now, the role of the scale factor here is that your reference axis, some could be shorter than the other, because if I stand with Prof. Larry and I move to him, he's taller than me. How do I make sure that my height will be the same as him? So that is the essence of getting the scale factor. So in all coordinate transformation, these 3 thematic points, the scale factor, the translation, the rotation is what we consider. Of course, when you consider other methods, they have different rules. So when Helmet brought this method, the issue with the Helmet transformation model is that it is an iterative solution. So when you are trying to solve for these translations, rotations, and scale factor, it takes a lot of time. Then Besser and Wolf combined and said that, look, let us push the Helmet transformation aside. Let's bring out a formula that we don't need to iterate before we get the result. Then when Besser-Wolf transformation model came, we all rushed and then grabbed it. Then they found out that no, the parameters that the Besser-Wolf is giving to you are actually correlating with each other. They have certain relationship. So we don't want to use Besser-Wolf again, even though the result is accurate. Then Molodensky-Betkas came. So Molodensky was telling us that, look, because the Besser-Wolf transformation model, the parameters relate with each other, we should rather consider the central location of the point in the data that we are using before we determine the parameters. So in the Molodensky-Betkas, he is saying that, look, if I have latitude values for my war office, I have longitude values, I have my height values, I want to find the midpoint. So in effect, you are just finding the average. Then when Molodensky brought the concept of this finding average of the coordinates, Vase also said, no. Look, when the local geodetic network, the War Office 1926 was being established, at where they made the observation to connect to the 15 pairs of stars, and then connect to the GCS 54050 whatever in Legon. Something might have happened at that place. So I want to consider the centroid, but I want to see what really transpired at the origin of the local coordinate system. Then geocentric translation model also came. Geocentric is telling you that, why do you always want to worry yourself? You calculate translation, you calculate rotation, you calculate scale factor. No, let us just determine the distances between the houses and we are good to go. Let's forget about rotation. Let's forget about the scale factor. Then comes the standard Molodensky, average Molodensky. Now, we can all attest to the point that in the establishment of the War Office, at that time, we didn't have GPS. It is only GPS that can give us ellipsoidal height. Now, if you want to perform coordinate transformation, you are mandated to calculate for the local geodetic height. How are you going to do that? So the standard Molodensky, the average Molodensky transformation models were developed to help countries that are yet to move into a geocentric system so that we can get the corrections that we need to get in order to subtract from the WGS84 ellipsoidal height to get the War Office height that we need before we do the transformation. Then other methods came. Vanisek and Steve, they are saying that since you don't know the level of accuracy of your local geodetic height, ignore the height component. And then let's concentrate on the horizontal positioning, the latitude and longitude. So basically in the literature, these are the most widely used transformation models. Now, how are we doing in Ghana? So in Ghana, these are the methods that we have been able to test within our geodetic system. And in my opinion, I don't think we are doing badly at all. Because if you look at the globally acclaimed models, and then you look at how many of them that we have been able to test within our geodetic network, I think we have done well. So we have the Featherstone and Vanisek, which are saying that, look, forget the local height, just consider the latitude and longitude, put it into the equation and get your parameters. We have tested the helmet, we have tested the Besser-Wolf, geocentric translation model, Molodensky-Betkas, and so on and so forth. And recently, myself and Prof. Kumi Boateng, we worked on the Procrast algorithm. Now, this is basically a flow chart of what actually transpires when you are applying all the methods that we have listed here. So first of all, you need what we call common point coordinates. So the common point coordinates is that if I want to do a transformation for the mine, for one particular point, I have to get its mine grade coordinates, and at the same time, I must get its national coordinates. Because without that per the formulas we have, you cannot do transformation. So first, you get the common point relating to the two systems. Then you perform the forward convention. You change the latitude, longitude, ellipsoidal height into XYZ. The moment you have it, you now apply your transformation algorithm, whether Bessel-Wolf, Molodensky, Bredcast, or the Procrast. Then when you determine the parameters, you now use it to transform the coordinate that you want. And because we don't work in latitude and longitude, because the surface of the ellipsoid is a curved one, for convenience and simplicity, we prefer working in the projected grid coordinate system. So when you perform the transformation and then you do the reverse convention and you have your latitude and longitude, you must now project it. And you need to project it because the latitude and longitude is on a curved surface. That is why when we are teaching student principles of geodesy, when I ask you to calculate the distance between 2 points on the ellipsoid, you cannot tell me delta eastern squared plus delta northern squared or square root. It's wrong because it is not a straight line. You are looking at an arc. So doing such computation on the ellipsoid is even too complex. So there's the need to move from a curved surface and bring it onto a flat terrain. And that is why the land surveyor will tell you that the earth is flat, because he is dealing with the easterns and northerns, which are projected grid coordinates on a flat terrain. The moment you do the projection, then if you have an existing known point, you do the analysis. Now, what are some of the challenges that we have faced so far with the existing transformation models? Now, it has been found in the literature that it is difficult for the existing numerical models, Bessel-Wolf, Molodensky, and so on, to absorb the heterogeneity that exists in the local geodetic network. We must always understand that the GPS system is not a problem, but how our local geodetic networks, and it's only in Ghana, if you read about the National American Datum 1927, 1984, they all had the same challenges because the measurement was started from astronomical observation, converted to geodetic, and then densification was done. So because of that, most of the numerical models could not absorb this heterogeneity, and that also affects its performance. Then there are some of the methods that are iterative in nature. In this case, you have a set of nonlinear equations. Before you can determine parameters, you need to linearize it. Now, to do that, we apply the Taylor series. And applying the Taylor series also comes with its own challenges. You must guess or assume the parameters that you intend to estimate and feed into the system. Now, if it is very close, the number of times the algorithms will run will be very short. But however, if your guess is too far away from, in quotes, the true transformation parameter value, then you have to run a lot of iterations before you arrive on the final result. So we also experience slow convergence because if your initial transformation parameter that you have suggested into the algorithm is not close to what you should have, it becomes a problem. So it gives us a lot of complex computational processes. And at the same time, the result that we are achieving is also not satisfactory. So why do we need to use the AI? So when you look at the chronological event, at the time they were proposing the helmet, the Molodenskis, the Bessel-Wolf, it's not the AI time, let me say it like that. So most of the old professors, they are used to developing the numerical models. But our time is different. When I was a student, I was using Nokia 3310. Now, where is it? We are talking of iPhone 14 Pro Max. We are talking about the electronic SIM. You don't even need a SIM card to put in your phone. So it tells us that the academia or even the work that we do has also changed. in as much as technology is changing, knowledge is also moving with it. So one, if you look at the stress you need to go through to determine transformation parameters, with the AI, you don't need any parameters. So even if there is an inherent errors in estimating the parameters, with the AI, you avoid that. Then the model complexity in terms of the computational process is very short. There is this problem. Fortunately, Ghana, most of the algorithms, we are yet to experience that. We have something we call the ill-posed problems. You have an equation there, and you are having several solutions for one problem. If surveyor A picks it this way, he's going to have different values. Surveyor B picks it this way, you are going to have different values. And that is what we call the ill-posed problems. Now, with the advent of this AI, you don't need to experience that. Now, a summary of the AI processes. When you look at this one, when you have your geodetic coordinates in both systems, that's the common point, you feed it into the AI system, and straightforward, you get your transformation results. Now, when we go back to this slide, look at the numerical process. The first one, you have your geodetic coordinate. The second one, you do forward convention. Before you apply the transformation model, you get the parameters, you use it to transform, and then you do reverse convention. These are about 4 or 5 stages. But when you come to the AI, the moment you feed in the geodetic coordinate, and then you feed in the corresponding geodetic output, you get the results straight. And the moment you get the results in latitude, longitude, ellipsoidal height, you don't need to do any reverse convention. You just have to project onto the transverse indicator. You get your easterns and northerns, and then you compare your results. Now, in literature, these are the AI methods that have been applied so far. Out of these methods, I can say it is only the interval prediction and then the RNN, which is the recurrent neural network, and then the ANFIS, adaptive neurofuzzy inference system. These 3 methods are the only ones that we have not tested within the Ghana Geodetic Reference System. When you talk about the BPNN, backpropagation neural network, GRNN, generalized regression neural network, RBFNN, radial basis function neural network, GMDH, group method of data handling, LSSVM, least square support vector machine, SVM, support vector machine, ELM, extreme learning machine, MAS, multivariate adaptive regression spline. These methods have been tested within the geodetic network of Ghana. And actually, that is what I did for my PhD. And from 14 coming, majority of my publications is in the area of AI, as well as applying it in different disciplines. Now, when you look at these methods, you may think that we've exhausted everything in the AI. No, there are a lot of work to be done. And the objective actually is always to improve the accuracy that we are getting from our transformation. So the future directions, we have to look at the classroom, because if you have huge data sets, you must be able to cluster them so that data that have similarity among themselves could be grouped at one side, and those that are not similar could be pushed to the other side. And in doing that, we can improve the transformation result. The other aspect has to do with the optimized AI method. Now, when you look at these methods, these are what we call the classical AI methods. This we only use in their original formulation. So when we want to improve it, the optimization approaches that these algorithms are using, we can actually replace them with more modern ones. For example, the backpropagation neural network uses gradient descent optimization algorithm. Now we have optimization algorithm that can even explain how animals live in their habitat. So for example, we have anti-coronavirus optimization, how human beings are able to protect themselves against the coronavirus. It's an algorithm there. We have African vulture optimization, how the African vultures, how they travel, search for food, how the senior-most person will go towards the food before the second person will come. Those days when we had waste dumps around, when you are moving, you see the vultures there. When you start reading about this bio-inspired optimization, you will now understand why they were behaving that way. We have particle swarm optimization algorithms. When it's 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., you see that this swarm of birds, they move in a triangular shape. That is particle swarm optimization. These are bio-inspired optimization algorithms that we use to enhance the performance of the AI. Because I always say that artificial intelligence that we are talking about, people always look at the cloning, the cloning, the cloning. No, we are geoscientists. If an AI method can give me a high accuracy transformation result, there is nothing wrong with that. So I prefer we look at, in our domain, how we can use the AI to enhance an existing technique that we have been using. Because the computer scientists, the mechanical engineers, the electrical engineers, they will handle the robotics. We want to use it as a soft computing technique to handle our computation. We want to develop joy. How can we use the AI to build a joy? And when we build a joy, we get proper height. And there's no problem with that. So the next one I'll talk about is signal decomposition. We know from basic survey that 3 classification of errors: random errors, systematic, and gross errors. Now, gross errors is avoided. Systematic, you have identified it. But no matter what you do, the random errors still exist. Now, how do we understand how much influence the random error that exists within the measurement that we have been taking? From adjustment and computation, they tell you that you cannot handle random errors. And that is why when you do multiple observation at one point, you have variation in the coordinate. So with the signal decomposition approach, you first of all do denoising to reduce the random error effect in the data before we feed it into the AI. This is something that we can explore. Now, deep learning, convolutional neural network, the autoencoders and co can also be explored. Now, the last one, in the literature, the only steps that have been adopted is always feeding the system with geodetic coordinate, and then the output becomes geodetic coordinate. So for example, if I want to get my grade coordinate in Ghana National System, if I should feed the system with the WGS84 latitude, longitude, ellipsoidal height, and then I feed the output eastern and northern relating to the Ghana transverse Mercator projection system, I should be able to get my projected grid coordinates. And if this is further explored, will also help cutting the procedure of transformation short. On that note, I say thank you for the opportunity and God bless you all.
Thank you very much. At the back, they were saying that this man understands the stuff because it's really just, it's a good way to have this number still attentive at this time. Then it means that we have really been able to trace the journey very well. So thank you. We want to take, because of our time, I'm sure that CPD chair is around, and with time, we can have much more time to trace this, because once you don't get the basics very well, sometimes then, even though we say we are doing robotics, but you rather become robotic in thinking and you don't just understand what you are doing and anything just goes. So maybe we can allow for 2 questions. We can allow for 2 questions. Okay, wow. Okay, so maybe we can take Soviet Nedu Senior so that the next is, did I see Alex, your hand up? Okay, so where's the microphone? Maybe come and ask yours, and then after that you can, we should take 3 at a go. All right. So chairman says I should take 3 questions. So the third one, please let me see the hand, then I can get the third. Okay, there's, hey. Okay, so 3, 4. Maybe we just take the 4. And also make your question as brief as possible. Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ziga, for your question. In your presentation, you mentioned that the conventional approach, the challenges, you said because of heterogeneity and then the iterative nature of the solutions. And so AI was coming in to solve this, especially with the first part, the heterogeneity. How is AI able to solve this? Because I know AI, what we feed in is what we get. And still with the conventional approaches in determining transformation parameters, the survey results or the coordinates that we feed in is what will help us get the transformation parameters. So how is AI able to overcome this very challenge with a conventional approach? Thank you.
So please send to Senior Vice. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chairman. My question is not technical, but more of a policy. Professor Ziga, don't smile. I mean it. When are we certain to begin to see these challenges as history? Because I think societies are moving that fast, anticipating that basic services, basic tools that are going to actually work the geospatial tools would all depend on geodesy. And it is for that reason that I asked this question as to where we can be certain that we have been able to make a breakthrough without these assumptions and always having to look back with respect to transformation parameters and respect to how we would bring our systems into the modern geodetic frameworks. Thank you.
Okay, let's take the third. We just take the 4 so that when he responds, we'll take the chairman's closing remarks.
Thank you very much. Doc, you mentioned about the WGS 84 and its geocentric position. But then in America, in 2025, they will be moving from WGS 84 to ITRF 2025. Have we also in Ghana, have we incorporated anything into our changes as well?
The last question. Chairman, I want to ask, what is the best measure of post-process data? What is the best measure of post-process data? Yeah, that's the question. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So Dr. Ziga will take the questions as they have been asked.
Thank you very much. Alex was asking about the heterogeneity, and he made a comment that whatever you feed into the system, that comes out. That is what people always say. Now, you must understand that in mathematical modeling, we have what we call deterministic models and stochastic models. In deterministic models, what you have said works. But in stochastic situation, it doesn't work. Deterministic, for example, is regression, the linear regression that we know. If you have 10 points, when you formulate a regression model on the 10 points, you can run it several times, you still get the same result. That is what is meant by deterministic. And that is what makes AI have an advantage over the numerical concept, because the AI models are stochastic methods. And in stochastic methods, you are telling the system, based on a certain threshold, I want you to run the data, but this is my measure of accuracy. If the system has not gotten to that level of accuracy, it will keep running. So, I don't want to go into too much technicality, but let me just demonstrate the computational process of the backpropagation neural network. When I feed my geodetic latitude and longitude, the principle of backpropagation is simple. When the system moves in a feed-forward manner and it calculates to give results, the system is being told that, please compare with my target. If the error margin, what they call the loss function, is too high, backpropagate into the system and run again. Such is a stochastic system. But if it is normal regression, the moment you run one time, the result comes, whether good or bad, there is nothing you can do about it. So that is how come the AI is able to minimize the influence of the heterogeneity and then improve the results. Then my own boss asked me, when will we say goodbye to this? Honestly, we've made tremendous strides in this country. I know that a committee was formed and they brought what they call the Ghana Transverse Mercator, where the latitude 4 degrees 40 minutes north was pulled to latitude 0 degree, and they maintained the longitude 1 degree west, which they used the force easting to be 400,000. So when you look at a UTM, which is having a force easting of 500,000, it means that this is a geocentric system that we've formed. If it has been implemented, the transformation parameters we need will actually be for the legacy data. But how many years now? We've heard nothing about it. So we still go in a reverse cycle. So the GTM that we have determined should be put into practice. And the moment they put into practice, nobody will bother about heterogeneity in the data. You take this data here, you process, someone processes it with different software, a whole lot of problems. Because the software that was designed was based on default settings. And we should note that the white man developing the software is not considering Africa. So most of the time, you even have to build your own datum information in the software. But it's not like that outside. So if effort has been made and geocentric translation GTM has been brought, why can't we implement it in pilot phases? And before we realize, the whole country, we have controls that can be linked to it. So I think we have the solution. It's already there, but the implementation we leave to my boss sitting next to you to handle. That's above my pay grade. Then the question about moving to the ITRF 2025. The WGS84 and the ITRF, actually research has shown that the difference between these two coordinate systems are very negligible. And the concept of the ITRF basically is to help with the crustal deformation monitoring. And that is why you see they will use satellite laser ranging, very long baseline interferometry, satellite altimetry stations built across the globe. So I remember, I think the Lisa Court station in Takoradi, there were plans to link it up with the IGS Australia, the OSPOS people. Now, I believe that first, we should get the geocentric system working. Then we can migrate into the ITRF system that will help do proper crustal deformation. Because in this country, we don't even know how much we are shifting every year. But when you check the Potsdam data, they are telling you plus or minus 25 millimeters across the globe. But we should understand what is really happening here. The ITRF system will help us to achieve that. But we need to move gradually. Let's get the geocentric system in place so that our survey professionals will have their peace of mind of conflicting transformation processing results. Then we can now move into the ITRF system. That is all that I can say about it. Then the last person was asking about the post-processing data measure. I didn't know whether it was an accuracy indicator. Okay. Now, in survey, from the principles of adjustment, first, we consider standard deviation. The standard deviation tells us the precision of the data. Why? Because we have been told from the basic knowledge of surveying that we cannot say true value. Now, when we go into adjustments and you draw the normal distribution curve, the midpoint line is actually the most probable value. So on the normal distribution, on your right side is plus of standard deviation. On the left side is negative of standard deviation. When you run your GPS data, it gives every coordinate will give you some 0.001 attached. Normally we ignore, but those are the precision. So if you're able to study that, first it can even tell you that no, if I'm having a standard deviation value for a data that are processed, let's say 0.5. When you look at the normal distribution curve, you are moving away 0.5. But if it is within the 0.0, then you are very close to the MPV value. So that is the first indicator. Then depending on what you are going to use the data to do, other indicators, root mean square error can be considered. Horizontal positional displacement can be considered. So that is what I can say about that. Thank you.
This one is Professor Emeritus in geodesy, a bigger one for him. Yes, thank you very, very much. So at this time, I wouldn't put in any words again, but we'll invite our senior vice, Dr. Akweje, to give us his remarks.
Thank you, Prof. It has been a very long day, but you agree with me that we have had insightful presentations. From simulation to twinning, and then we came to our level, geodesy. So I could see that in the beginning, it was GIS and remote sensing. So you see, those in remote sensing and GIS were happy. And then those who are interested in engineering surveying, when the discussions was on BIM and twinning, they were also listening very carefully. And then finally, we came to the discussion where it was not even a discussion, it was lecturing. And even myself, as I sat down, I was reflecting on 1997, when TK was teaching us geodesy. So we had simulation and prediction of land use, land cover using artificial intelligence and HPT technologies. And the presenter took us through all the applications and the problems. And what I got from there, he emphasized on two tools, the PLUS and then the MCCA, which he said is so accurate to be used for even detecting small areas. So the conclusion he made was that land use, land cover simulation is the key when you want to deal with sustainable development assessment. Then in the second presentation, digital twin for solar farms, I'm sure you all remember that he discussed the motivation of the digital twin, motivation of the BIM and GIS integration. Then he came to the digital twinning. And then finally, he talked about how to combine the two in the various applications. Then Dr. Tiziga took us through coordinate transformation journey, starting from the 3 pillars of geodesy, and then he discussed with us the process of coordinate transformation and the kind of transformation parameters that had been used worldwide and in Ghana. And then he discussed with us the challenges with the numerical method of doing coordinate transfer or numerical methods of doing transformation, and then how AI becomes very important. And then he gave us the future direction. And it is good for those of us who are researchers and students here so that we will know which direction that we should be going. And I'm sure with the way I look at your faces here, Sylvia Brebo and the team, CPD, we need to be looking at the LS chair. We need to be looking at it and see if we can have a CPD on what he has taught us. What can we say finally? Smart thinking. Now, what I observed from the presentations is that in the morning, Kumbugu Nairi told us how he used smart thinking in budgetary allocation, where he was supposed to train 5 persons with some budget, and he smartly used the same budget to train more than 5 people. Then what I observed from the first presentation this afternoon that when they started, the second presentation, when they started their training, they started from the university, the facility. Based on the problems that they faced at the university, that is why these ideas came up. So as we are thinking of, or we are thinking smartly, we need to look around our own environment and see the kind of problems and see how we'll be able to think smart about it. Thank you for joining me and taking you through this conclusion. God bless us all.
Thank you very much, Chair. And so we'll just take some announcement, and we want to say that right after here, snack is served. And tomorrow's tour, you only need to pay for the safari, which is 40 Ghana cedi, but all other things from the transport is catered for. Departure is 4:30 a.m. So yes, so that you can see when you get there. If you go too late, then there will be no point. Then maybe you will just see only the mystic stone, but you want to see. Oh, what time do you want to go? What time? Okay. As for this one, I don't have veto to change it. So me, I'm announcing what they gave to me. Is that not it? The smoke stand, they are also one of our sponsors. And so please, when you get down there, try to patronize them so that you get wonderful smokes for your collection. Friday will be the AGM. We also have time with YSN. You have gone through all the different presentation scenarios, messages, address. what we want to do is that just like we did in Sunyani, we are going to have an open forum, and that open forum, just like we did. No, I have the t-shirt here, don't worry, I have it here. So just like we did, we will allow people to also give us certain innovations that we may be missing, or certain smart ideas, or maybe certain smart strategy that internally we should be taking. So we'll have a session on that. So maybe you can just work on your points, and then collectively we see how we synthesize the ideas from the team. What we've decided to do this time too is that by tomorrow, we shall post on the platform the different papers to be presented, A and B. So you know that in room A, these are the presentations, and room B. So you can swap in between the timing depending on what excites you or what is of interest to you as far as the papers are concerned, so that we don't take too much time in the paper presentation. So we divide it so that by so doing, you can move in, we'll allocate the time so that you move in based on your interest. I think there's a guest and a curtain raiser presentation by Sovera Aka. I think Sovera Aka will be doing his presentation. And even though he was not around, I understand he will be in by tomorrow. So that will also be done. This will be the t-shirt to use for many that can afford. Is it 100 Ghana cedi? How much is it? 100. It's 100 cedi, right? So when you get there, based on your poverty allocation, you tell them and you sign, and they will give it to you at that rate. So this is a very beautiful shirt. So let's try to get it so that we'll be well branded for the trip. Chairman, is it done? Are we okay with the announcement? Have we captured everything? Okay. The convergence point is here. If we don't have, if the artificial intelligence don't fail us and you move around somewhere, but it's here. It's at the 4:30. If not, I'm told that if we go later than 5, then it means that you will see the animals, choices animals you want to see at that time. That come very early. It means that by the time you get there, they've already. So I think the 4:30 is strict. Reporting 4 a.m. Departure 4:30 a.m. So if 4:30 you are not here, maybe we can assist with you with drones so that in 30 minutes you can get there. We want to thank you from morning to this time. You've been able to stay through the program, and we want to invite a Muslim prayer as we close. Can we please have a volunteer from our Muslim brethren to come and give us the closing prayer? Please, can we have? Okay, thank you. So, Sheikh Doctor, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين
Amen. Thank you very much.
Anthem. I've started.
you.